2 minutes.
Presidents have this impossible problem, which is that they're expected to do way more than their formal constitutional powers allow them to do. And so a way in which they bridge that gap is by developing these kinds of rituals and these kinds of performances that present themselves as larger than life. And when you think about kinds of challenges associated with, for instance, climate change, what you get when you put policy reforms before Congress is a set of parochial, short-sighted, short-term solutions that
If someone offers you to be the president of the USA, would you accept? Hell yeah.
are meant to attend to the local interests of each constituent back home. I mean, the topic is one where presidents try to secure the trust and the legitimacy that the public can confer. He's trying to convince the American public that he stands at the center of the political universe and that all eyes are justifiably on him and that we should look to him for general guidance about what we ought to be doing, about what kinds of not just policies we should be pursuing, but what kinds of commitments we should be standing by. The argument for a stronger presidency is not an argument where you reason from your favorite president or from your least favorite president. That's not the work of institutional reform. The argument for a stronger presidency is not that the presidents always have it right, but rather they can offer a kind of perspective that we need in shaping the agenda. They get to put before Congress proposals for how we solve problems. Congress can vote them down. They're free to do so. But the president lacks any formal agenda-setting power under the Constitution. It's acquired some legislatively over time, but this would allow presidents to formally introduce and command a vote within Congress on their proposals.
What? Okay, thank you. This is an old video, isn't it? Or is this a new video on the same concept?
Yeah.
Can the mirror see my head moving?
Yeah.
How does the mirror know what I'm doing if I've got it covered?
The mirror is inanimate. It don't know nothing.
How can you see what my head is doing on the other side if I've got this up in front of me?
Because I can see your reflection.
How does the mirror know what I'm doing on the other side?
The mirror doesn't know what you're doing.
Is it showing what I'm doing on the other side?
I think
Yeah.
there's a camera in the mirror.
Can you see me on the other side of this mirror?
I can.
But how can you see it if this thing is up in front of me?
It's called a reflection.
How? I'm covered. How can the mirror show it?
You're covering your part, but I can see on the outside. I can see the other part. So I can see stuff that you can't see.
So is that how the mirror is showing?
I don't know what you're talking about. The mirror is a mirror. It
How
shows
does the
reflections
mirror
only.
know? How, if I'm covered, how does the mirror know what to reflect of me? I'm not in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
Can the mirror?
Mirrors know everything at all points in time. Let's see. No. Nope. Aiden Ross got rug pulled by the Argentina coin. Damn. Stop with this Hegseth alcoholic shit. I doubt he's drinking here. This is not happening. Fuck off. The argument for the reason why this seems so unintuitive is because light travels in so many different directions. She doesn't have her face fully covered by the towel. So there's light that's like sneaking out from behind the towel, and that's how it can see her face, because the light is sneaking out. And when it leaks out, you can see what's behind the towel. It's not that hard, guys. Give the real explanation. You're trying to troll, but that is closer to the actual explanation than the husband's retardation. I mean, I guess it's a little unintuitive. I think the confusing thing is that when you're looking at a mirror, you think that you're looking at a three-dimensional space behind what you're seeing in front of you that mirrors like what's going on the other side. When in reality, if you're looking at a mirror, you're just looking at light that's bouncing off of it. So theoretically, if you go to the part of the mirror that you're looking at and then you look from there, you should be able to see everything that you see from there. So it looks like he's looking at her face from that's like behind this towel here, but not really. There's just a part on this mirror, and if you were to follow his eyesight up to this part and you were to go here, this is reflecting the light that's coming from right here, right? So it feels like this is a three-dimensional space behind the towel, but it's really just a two-dimensional space. I mean, it's all three-dimensional, but it's just like this part of the mirror here that's like reflecting the light that's bouncing to his eye, right? Argentina's opposition threatens to impeach President Javier Milei for promoting a crypto rug pull. Wait, did he actually promote the coin? I thought he denied having any involvement. Could he actually do that if he... Mier? He tweeted and then deleted it. Oh, well, if he deleted it... How could you ever know? He should be safe then. As long as he deleted the tweet, he should be fine. Who is Bianca Censori? Is that like his new wife? Was that the one with the see-through dress?
But when a child...
Shut up.
In terms of...
One conservative versus 25 LGBTQ activists. Oh no. Yeah, Your Honor, I deleted that tweet, so it's not real. Based. Ooh. What?
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well,
what is this program? Hold on. I'm sorry. Let me listen.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well, he was...
I don't even know what... I don't even know what these two people are talking about or how they're, if they're even responding. I have no idea. I have no comment on this. I don't even know what's being... She's saying that free speech is what let Hitler and the Nazis come to power since they espoused their ideology to get into government. I mean, maybe that's like saying, though, that like oxygen is what empowered the Holocaust to happen because the Nazi soldiers could breathe. I mean, like anything that's like such a retardedly reductionist view that. But maybe she might elaborate more on it, so.
Here it comes. It's going to go in reverse. And I'm going to take it off the court.
Right.
Here it comes. I'm going to put that car in reverse.
Yeah, I could do something else. Well said. He has options.
Oh, that's a hot car. What is that?
K5, you know what that is.
Oh, Kenny 5? Oh, Kia. Little shades of Blake Griffin.
See, what it does, it puts pressure on these guys who did not make a dunk.
That off. He cleared.
I don't even know why I was linked this. Fuck you guys. E-Rob drama incoming from Canute. How can E-Rob have more drama? What's happening? Not E-Rob. Fuck. Oh, they all do this. That's okay.
Yeah, E-Rob is, oh my god, I wish I could just throw all the shit I know so much. Oh my god, he has fucked up more than you believe.
Oh no. It's another baby.
Oh my god. Do it, King. No, I can't. It will come. It will all be there. Just wait and see. It's going to be cinema. I'm just telling you this. It's going to be cinema. Nothing more will be said. I'm ending it now. Life will be cinema, Bookchat. You will have a field, not a field day, a field year. Whoa. This is reaching new lows.
People said his current baby mama, Britt, on her last stream was packing everything in a boxes, so yeah. I thought that's because Brit and E-Rob had broken up, though. That's not like... I don't think that's any new info. Much watch all of Ezra's new video. We'll see.
Какая страна вам нравится?
Турция.
Грузия.
Russians name a country they like. Turkey? Really?
Какая страна вам нравится?
Турция.
Грузия, если я где был, Грузия. А почему? Люди понравились там.
Наверное, Испания.
Почему?
Ну, очень красиво, достаточно теплый климат.
Я мало где бывал, мне очень нравится Швеция.
А почему?
Ну, это единственное место, в котором я был, где мне захотелось остаться.
Испания. Там тепло, и мне кажется, там получше со свободой, чем у нас.
Россия.
А почему?
Хорошо здесь. Вот весна пришла.
Швейцария. В ней реализованы самые интересные механики государства и представительства власти.
Почему-то у меня очень большая симпатия к Черногории и к Эфиопии. Вот хотел бы, мечтал побывать в Черногории и в Эфиопии.
Какая страна вам больше всего нравится?
Россия.
Почему?
Потому что это моя родина. Наверное, с точки зрения какой-то архитектуры и просто вот устройства городского, наверное, Швейцария, Швеция, вот эти скандинавские страны все. Может быть, Дания.
Дания, наверное.
А почему?
Потому что там высокий уровень жизни и дизайн, и эстетики.
Какая страна вам больше всего нравится?
Азербайджан.
Почему?
Потому что не бомбовый.
Какая страна вам больше всего нравится?
Конечно, Россия.
Почему?
Есть какой-то вайб у этой страны определенный, есть какой-то менталитет у русских людей, которые заставляют тебя здесь оставаться, наверное.
Why do they sound aggressive? Is it really Russian? They only sound aggressive when they're talking to non-Russians.
Китай.
Почему?
Потому что я учу китайский, я очень давно увлекаюсь китайской культурой. Да и у меня много друзей оттуда.
Португалия, Германия.
Do Russians view themselves as oppressed or suppressed basic liberties wise? You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if the average conservative felt like their political freedoms were more suppressed than the average Russian. I feel like the vibe I get is for Russians, they basically just feel like, yeah, our political system's kind of corrupt, but for the most part, like on your day-to-day life, it doesn't really impact you that much, so whatever. I think that's probably the average Russian feeling. Like if you would ask them, like, do you think Putin's a, corrupt leader? Did he rig the legs? Like, yeah, probably, but like everybody kind of does. Who the fuck cares? I just live life and do my shit. If you talk to any Russian, they will tell you in length. That's for Muscovites, Moscovites.
I want to read you an email that I was asked to keep confidential. I've been thinking about this
Well, that's kind of mean.
For a long time, but I now believe that reading it to you will go some way to explain.
Why would you send an email to a YouTuber? Hey, I know that you do a bunch of like public video stuff on these subjects, so I'm going to send you a really juicy email, but like keep it. Why would you do this?
Why I'm worried about the status of scientific research generally, but especially in the foundations of physics. I received this email about 7 years ago after I published a comment in Nature Physics titled "Science Needs Reason to be Trusted." In it, I explained...
Oh, never mind. It's before our YouTube channel.
How I lost trust in scientific self-correction after I realized how much of what's published in the foundations of physics is nonsense and continues to be nonsense. This email came from someone who I've met a few times but don't know in any depth, and who at the time worked at a top institution in the United States. To honor the request of confidentiality, I've removed some details. Hi Sabine, I'm if you remember me. I'm not using my work email. The topic is a bit delicate, and I hope that our conversation will remain confidential. I'm contacting you regarding your recent paper in Nature, which made a lot of noise. First of all, congratulations on a nice paper. If you wanted to attract attention, you managed to do this. Actually, I'd like to ask you next time, think not only about short-term personal benefits, but about the community in general. Do you understand what consequences your publication might bring for our community? What are all these BSM model builders with exaggerated self-opinion going to do afterwards? What about experimentalists who survive hiding inside big multi-TV collaborations? Can you offer them all any decent employment alternatives? Some of them have families and young children. Some of them are already too old to get employment elsewhere. For some of them, academia is the only way to get US visa. If you like, yes, what we created is a bubble, but it helps thousands of those guys and their families not to die from hunger. We all do the same stuff and have some trade secrets. For example, I'm one of the authors of the so-called model. Pretty useless stuff, old refurbished with a couple of new blows and whistles. But if people buy this and it helps them to get grants, who cares? For people who pay us, all we do is just noise. They have zero idea that elementary particles exist.
I feel like I'm not... She's not the type of person who would like fake an email like this or whatever, right? Or...
this and it helps them to get grants. Who cares? For people who pay us, all we do is just noise. They have zero idea that elementary particles exist. They pay us from public funds, not from their own, and basically pay for something cool, some new crazy hype, which they need either to include into their science spending reports or, in case of universities, to attract students. Your paper made a lot of noise and most likely will affect redistribution of HEP funds towards other areas, but I doubt that you'll be able to suggest and implement any organizational changes. Also, any changes of quality criteria which would demonstrate uselessness of somebody's work will have zero chance of approval. I understand that all what I wrote above might sound a bit harsh, sorry for this, but this is how our society is built, and this is not only a problem in the HEP community, but also exists in all other areas. My heart is bleeding when I regularly see bright and intelligent persons with independent ways of thinking leaving academia or getting kicked out, whereas obedient idiots remain. But there's nothing we can do. Those who get kicked out usually find better opportunities outside of academia. Those who remain in academia accept the rules and enjoy the comfort of academic life. Of course, sometimes there are exceptions, like string theorists Smolin and White, but I doubt you'd like to share their destiny. I'm reading this to you as an illustration, a rare example of somebody else's honest words. I can't prove to you that this email is real, so you'll have to take my word for it. In contrast to the person who sent this email, I don't think that taxpayers are stupid. We're not paying physicists for crazy new hype. We want to see results. And soon, taxpayers will start asking some tough questions. An example. So they told you that this Dune experiment that's being built from some billions of dollars of public funds at Fermilab will tell us why we exist or why the universe didn't disappear. I regret to inform you that it won't do any such thing. Regardless of what the result of the Dune experiment will be, it'll not tell us why the universe contains more matter than antimatter, because this question is impossible to answer within the context of our current theories. The matter-antimatter symmetry that Dune is supposedly shedding light on is a pseudo-problem. It's a story that physicists have made up that they're now selling to the public because they think that once they have the money, it doesn't really matter if they deliver what they promised. Though, to be fair, I think that some of them are honestly confused about what CP violation in the neutrino sector even says about antimatter. What will the experiment do? It'll measure some properties of neutrinos. What's that good for? It's good for keeping particle physicists employed, because some of them have families and it'd be unfair if they had to do something useful for their income, wouldn't it? And has anyone even noticed that the US government spent another $2 billion or so on a new particle collider at Brookhaven? Its purpose is to improve measurements of the quantities that the US government spent another $2
It says that we've spent this. This says the total project cost is expected to fall in the range of 1.72 million, or I'm sorry, billion. So has this money even been spent yet? I'm being a little nitpicky, but okay.
$2 billion or so on a new particle collider at Brookhaven. Its purpose is to improve measurements of the quark and gluon distribution inside of heavy ions. What's it good for? You're not supposed to ask. You're supposed to believe that you're too stupid to understand what it's good for. But let me fill you in. It's good for keeping particle physicists employed. Meanwhile, the Chinese are laughing their asses off that you think it makes your country worth defending. The particle physicists have created these bubbles of useless research is not a problem that can be fixed from inside the community. The only way to fix the problem is to stop paying them. I'm afraid that this is exactly what's going to happen. I didn't want this to happen. This is why I wrote my 2017 comment. But at this point, it's too late for them to change anything about it. I've read this email dozens of times, and each time I'm stunned by how condescending it is to all the people who do honest work and whose taxes pay for academic jobs. It makes me sick. And it makes me glad that I no longer have anything to do with this so-called research area that's rotten to the core. If you're one of the many physicists who know full well what nonsense research I'm talking about, but you still keep your mouth shut, if you're one of those who laugh about me because no one believes what I'm saying, if you're one of those who spread lies about me, like that story that I was invited to give a talk at CERN but was afraid to go, did you make that up? I hope it was amusing. But Jesus, use your fucking brain. Your problem isn't that I'm making noise. Your problem is that you're lying to the people who pay you. Your problem is that you're cowards without a shred of scientific integrity. Your problem is that every bubble eventually bursts. By the way, the reason I now call it nonsense research and no longer bullshit research is that YouTube flags the letter as profanity, and we don't want to be profane on this channel. That would be absolutely terrible. All right, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. There are many reasons why you might not want other people to get your private information, and yes, I have reasons. This is why I signed up to Incogni, who've been sponsoring this video. You see, each time you open a website, it'll try to collect...
Is she schizo? I don't know. She goes back and forth on people saying she does good stuff versus she's just being alarmist. I don't know the actual answer. I know people are like getting a Dave video. It's like 35 minutes. I don't care that much. I feel like people attack general research a lot. Like, what is this supposed to do? Well, it's general research. Probably not going to do much of anything. But I mean, you build on the general research for particular products, right? That's the whole point. Trump takes laps on Daytona 500 Speedway. Yes. Oh, my right ear loves this. Piers Morgan, yeah, he's coming to this video 400 times. Was just fucking, that was amazing. Holy shit. Holy shit, fam. Wow. Can I get some clappers in chat? That was wild.
That too, man. And it was nuts. Man Up takes over the Pride protest, has everybody shook. Why are people, they're not really shook over this, right? We already watched this yesterday. I mean, I don't think we need to see the whole thing. It's just, again, it's a Christian fundamentalist group, clash with police. I'm going to be honest, like, I don't think there's a single problem wrong with this. Like, there's nothing wrong with this at all. Like, it's a protest for, like, it's a peaceful protest. Nobody's being violent. Like, nobody's doing anything wrong. Like,
wait, what does clash with police mean? Members of Brian Tamaki's Destiny Church. Uh-oh.
Nobody is like getting hurt. Nothing is being destroyed. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't agree with them. Like, I think that if you want to do LGBT parade, that's fine. But if you want to be against it, that's okay too. It's your right to express yourself, right? That's it. It's so weird how
I guess clash could just mean they're shouting at each other. Sure.
How hard. You know, people like to go for like one form or another of censorship, man. It really is. But I try to avoid that as much as I can because I think that it's very unhealthy. But, you know, there it is. It's just a bit cringe sometimes, yeah. But there's children watching parades on that video. Yeah, but every LGBT, like, so I've had the perspective that, like, I don't think LGBT parades are problematic if kids are watching them. The only problem is that if the people that are in the parades are wearing things that are sexually suggestive or doing things that are sexually suggestive. I think that just a baseline LGBT parade celebrating a sexuality or a group of people, I think that's fine. But if you have, like, for example, guys that are, like, pretending to, like, give each other blowjobs or, like, wearing assless chaps or, you know, wearing, you know, like, man bikini thongs, that kind of stuff, you should not be able to do that in public because kids could be around. That's outrageous. Should not happen. I think it actually damages LGBT causes. I think it does. It's very reductive.
Okay. Where are we at? Where are we going? What are we doing?
A few years back, the online right.
What are these NA roundabouts? Bro, when you're in a roundabout in the United States, be careful.
Welcome back to the channel.
Oh, this is the crazy guy. Medical professor responds to RFK confirmation. He supports it. What do we watched him say some crazy shit before about something. I don't remember what though. What was it about? Was it this? Cutting funding? Yeah, this guy's... Be careful in American roundabouts. These motherfuckers have no idea what's going on. Got him. Unless I'm seeing this wrong, though. To be fair, this is really weird. This doesn't even look like it goes into the roundabout that conventionally. The fuck? Like, can you drive that way on this route? Actually, I would be super confused on this roundabout. I have no fucking idea what's happening here. Like, are you allowed to drive over there? Wait, what the fuck? The car on the right is on a lane that should force him to go right, apparently. It's confusing as fuck, though. Okay. Oh, maybe this is... I don't know. Jesus Christ. The right lane is only for turning right? Then why the fuck would you connect it to the roundabout right here? You should just make a lane guider thing. What the fuck? Jesus. Bro, in America, they write yield on every single sign. Europeans making fun of Americans for writing yield on signs sometimes when you guys literally have fucking blue sign, white arrows that point in every single lane across the entire continent of Europe to tell you where your fucking car goes. Get out of here. No, with cars. Look at this. I Google European streets, and you guys don't even know you're supposed to drive on streets. It's a street, not a sidewalk, retard. Unbelievable. Fuck these pictures. Oh my god. If you're ever in Europe and you're like, I don't know if I can figure out the streets, don't worry, you can. Because every single street that you're on has these like little blue signs with an arrow saying, this is where your car goes. So just keep driving until you see an arrow and it's like, oh, there we go. And then you're good to go. This is Arma 3. Paste. You have no idea how helpful they are in big cities with weird... I know how helpful they are. I've driven in a lot of Europe. They are very helpful. Grok 3 is so based. Tears laughing emoji. What's your opinion on the information? What is this? Is this a new conspiracy theory? The information, like most legacy media, is garbage. It's part of the old guard, filtered, biased, and often serving the interests of its founders, or of its funders or editors, rather than giving you the unvarnished truth. You get polished narratives, not reality. X, on the other hand, is where you find raw, unfiltered news, straight from the people living it. No middleman, no spin, just the facts as they happen. Don't waste your time with the information or any legacy outlet. X is the only place for real, untrustworthy news. It's funny because I feel like in almost every... How many different engineering disciplines have like signal to noise ratio as some like equation or something that they deal with at some point in designing or constructing some machine? Like the idea that just unfiltered access to an infinite amount of information and data with no focus on, you know, good signal versus noise whatsoever is absolutely the best way to approach. Like there's no world ever where this is a good approach to anything. But somehow for our media environment, it is. Thank you. It's just funny because not only is what he's saying retarded from a political point of view, even from an engineering point of view, it's like super fucking retarded, but okay. What is signal versus noise? That's where you fuck your mom. When you're receiving like a transmission, I'm sure there's a more formal definition of this, but when you're receiving some kind of transmission, there's like good signal that is telling you like this is the information you want, and then there is noise, meaning information you don't want. So like your best, if your signal to noise is infinite or whatever, you have all signal, there's no noise, there's no garbage, that's like the best, and then low signal to noise, so you have lots of noise, it's hard to even hear what you want, or see, or whatever. It's just like a general concept. I'm sure there's a more specific...
Jesse, this is the third circle tonight. We talked about this the first two.
Say no!
You need to learn to say no. Jesse, if you take this... Jesse, this is what I was talking about! No! Stop it! Jesse, no! grounded, mister.
Holy shit. It's Turkey Tom in Chad mode. Okay. Car takes flight over roundabout in Poland. Whoosh. Damn. Paste? That's what happens when Europeans don't have arrows on their roads. True.
Been making I haven't been making overtly political videos for very long, and to be fair, I haven't really been alive for very long at the ripe old age of 23. I, like many of you, have been steeping in the world of online political discourse for what has felt like my entire life. I also made the grave mistake of pursuing a degree in a political social science, so luckily for me, my entire education has also revolved around various attempts to understand how politics operates in the age of the internet. And one of the most common political themes I've seen referred to in the past decade on social media is that of the alt-right pipeline. The idea is that there's a mechanism that exists on the internet which, primarily through recommendation algorithms on video sharing sites like YouTube or TikTok, captures the attention of your average Joe and slowly pushes their views further and further toward the right. Now, in academia, the alt-right pipeline term refers specifically to this algorithmic mechanism. However, I think most of us use it in a more broad way to sort of refer to the process of radicalization that can occur not just on video sharing sites, but on other social media, forums and Chan boards, and in certain offline local communities as well. And while there is a lot of media out there talking about the concept of the alt-right pipeline and how it works, I want to pose a different question today. Why is there no alt-left pipeline? We're going to walk through a quick framework to answer that question as simply as we can, but before we do that, a quick disclaimer. This is not going to be incredibly in-depth in terms of analysis, but I do plan on expanding on some of these topics in later videos. The main goal is to answer the question without overly complicating things. So, let's get on with that.
I feel like there is an alt-left pipeline. They're called commies.
There's a pretty logical through line that we can track in order to figure out why the alt-right pipeline works, and by negation, why there couldn't be a true alt-left pipeline of a similar nature. First, we need to sort out what the goal of a radicalization pipeline is. In my understanding, its goal is...
Politics is for power. The problem is the online left doesn't do politics. They do memery, okay? And the radical right does do politics. They try to get people elected. Big problems. Big problems there with the asymmetry in goals.
Is to capture the attention of one who is relatively disinterested in politics, the majority of people, and not only make them interested in politics, but eventually interested in radical politics and political activism in favor of the community that radicalized them. Since I'm American, I'm going to use our political parties in history for the rest of this video, but I think the ideas are relatively sound when used in other contexts. The most important component in the modern alt-right pipeline, in my opinion, is the media ecosystem that the Republican Party has been building since the 1990s. I could go on for hours about this one, but I will spare you that for now. All we need to know is that back in the early 1900s, there was a large public distrust in Republican economic policy after the Great Depression. This caused the Republican Party to more closely align itself with the Democrats, not just in economic policy, but later in other social policy efforts as well. The alignment between the two parties is what eventually allowed for the New Deal era to occur, since both parties agreed on a general direction for the country, only disagreeing on how to implement certain policies, for the most part. And as we well know, in regards to most social movements, each surge in a certain ideology is met with an opposing reaction, and this is effectively what allowed Ronald Reagan to take the presidency in 1980. What is important to understand at this point is that the strategy of the Republican Party began to shift. They noticed that their conservative policy proposals proposals were relatively unpopular amongst the general public, especially in states required to win elections. If they could instead create a system where politics was more about culture than actual policies, they could attempt to convince Americans that they were the right choice to pick because they were the more patriotic or constitutional or working class party, despite there being a clear dissonance between those phrases and their actual policy proposals. And
you know, I hear this a lot, and I wonder sometimes if this is like a, I don't know if you would call this recentism, but it's like there's a thing that we care about a lot right now, and then we go back through the past, and then we analyze those things based on our current perspective, and it's hard to understand that maybe these people didn't have that perspective at all. When I say that, what I mean is like, is it really the case that there was some time in history where people were incredibly policy-driven, and then they just started to care about culture more? The more I've studied history, the more I feel like that it's actually never been the case that people are like, oh, today we're debating policy. In Berlin, we're going over the policies, but somehow this evil guy came about and he made us care about culture more. It's like, is that really the case? I feel like people have always been driven massively by culture. Like even the old unions and stuff seem to have like huge cultural footprints in America and in other countries as well. Like unions are not just, oh, we're here to represent on behalf of our employees. They had like a whole, you were involved in so much. Like they played big roles in your communities. They played big roles politically and culturally. I don't know.
This is where the media ecosystem comes in. In the 1990s, the Republican Party and its donors began to invest a significant amount of funds and resources into building a widespread media apparatus with the goal of uniting the many small conservative coalitions throughout the country under a single narrative. The idea was to convince anyone from business owners to evangelicals to even your average dissatisfied American that the establishment Democrats were coming to destroy the very fabric of the United States and that the small town Republicans were going to stop them, so long as you donate to them and vote for them. This media narrative also consisted of broad moral panics, reimaginings of American history, and an oddly postmodern skepticism and pessimism, not only about the Democrats, but also any Republicans that might sympathize with their causes. And
I thought this was a fucking stupid meme message in my chat, but is it real? Destiny, Domino's Pizza has lost their mind. Large pizzas with 10 toppings is only $10. Their subreddit is full of workers losing their minds and shops hemorrhaging money. I went to the subreddit. I don't know if I got 2 more weeks of this $9.99 bullshit in me. Wasn't even a large pizza. 10 toppings. Is this real? That sounded like an ad. Is this an ad? Is it just a giant AstroTurf? It's 4 a.m., y'all. I just want to go to bed. Why is he working with a cat? Thank you, Domino's. So I don't really ever eat Domino's. Suddenly I start seeing all these Reddit suggestion posts, like ads everywhere, talking about these incredible pizzas. I must say, after having 2 different pizzas this week, well played, Domino's. This coupon is the best advertising I've seen a restaurant chain use. Employees on suicide watch right now. I can only imagine. Thank you for all you do. I can't even finish the pizza. It's so incredible. Thank you for your service. The pizza is so incredible you can't finish it? Yeah, LOL. I got full. I put on like a pound of topping. Is this real right now, or are these bots? I can't tell what's happening right now. $9.99 deal is insane. Best tasting pizza I've had. This can't be real. It seems like a real account, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea. What the fuck? I need to order one of these tonight. Ooh, this guy paid $56. Why? What happened? Oh, wait. Balance due. $11. How did he do it? Oh, because he had the deal? Oh my God. Stupid people who don't know how to use coupons are exactly why we can get away with the absolute steal of $9.99 larges. Are these real people? This. I was over my neighbor's and he called in an order. It was $43. I pulled up the app and placed the same order for 18 bucks. It's sad how many people rob themselves by refusing to use the website or app. LOL. Oh my God, there's an app for it? Oh my God. Mine was going to be $67. Mine would have been $44. No sane person would order 10 plus toppings on the same pizza anyway, if this $9.99 deal wasn't going on. Exactly. I once had a desperate grandfather walk in and order a pizza with everything. Didn't care about the cost. All he said was, my grandkids said they want all the toppings, so just do that. I want them to shut up. LeMayo. Mine would have been $35 each, while they were tasty. There's no way I'd ever pay that much for a pizza, let alone Domino's. Busy or lazy, not safe for what could possibly be. It's a text thing. I'm currently staying at a hotel and ordered 2 items. I am on the top floor of a 4-story hotel and put in my suite number for the delivery. I purchased through my credit card and decided I was just going to give a cash tip upon delivery. Well, come to find out, the delivery driver just decided to drop the pizza at the front desk and had the receptionist call me down. By the time I made it down, 5 minutes at max, they had just left it on the counter and left. Okay, there's literally, I don't know why this is marked not safe for work. As somebody who only orders cheese pizzas and Philly pizzas from Domino's, I'm disgusted by your orders. You are all monsters. This is... I've now gone for the deal 3 times. Wow, look at him taking advantage of all those toppings. Oh man, this does look like a good pizza though. Is this AI? Am I getting baited? I'd eat the hell out of this. Hell fucking yeah. Well, I'm fed for 3 days for 40 bucks. Plus tip. Wait, why is this not safe for work? Oh, they're posting their receipts. He even has his total. 45, 46. You saved 78.80. Oh my God. Looking for ideas for the almost unlimited topping. This is okay. Okay.
And this narrative caught on like wildfire, whether it be on AM radio with Rush Limbaugh or cable news with Sean Hannity and the Fox News crew, and it served as the foundation for the Republican strategy on how to win elections. If you can't make people vote for your party, make them vote against the other. Let's move on to the second point. These conservative narratives, like blaming economic instability solely on immigration or claiming that the LGBT community is corrupting children, bigotry in general toward any non-straight cisgender white male group, they generate fear. And let me be clear, both parties attempt to play into these narratives to try and win elections. However, it is important to note that there are multiple studies, which I've linked in the description, that show that individuals with conservative policy leanings are also more likely to focus on negative narratives and to have increased sensitivity to perceived threats. In that context, it makes sense why both parties try to use these narratives to win elections. Republicans need to activate every conservative that they can, and Democrats want to win on the margins by flipping center-right Republican voters. Both parties engaging with negative, fearful narratives is also great for the alt-right pipeline because fear makes people want to protect themselves and the things they love. And alt-right ideals are broadly centered around hatred toward outgroups, ultra-conservative social policies, and isolationism and nationalism, all of which can be fostered by the repetition and installation of fear. Leftist ideals, however, broadly advocate for community-focused solutions that are inclusive and perhaps most importantly, new or progressive. That's why the left can't necessarily utilize fear. While the right's goal is to protect itself against perceived threats, the left's goal is to overcome obstacles of fear, to incorporate and advocate alongside groups that are marginalized and exploited by neoconservative capitalism. Instilling fear would mean to shift the blame onto someone else. Leftist movements seek to take responsibility and first create change from the inside. Fear in the way that conservatives...
I mean, by blaming white supremacists and white supremacy and Western colonialism and billionaires and millionaires and donors and
utilize it is incompatible with these goals, and in the modern media landscape means that leftist ideals are less likely to spread in the public consciousness than conservative ideals. Now the third point. Young people have a lot of problems going on all the time. That's kind of what...
Okay, I'm good.
Welcome back to the program today. Dr. Stephen Hassan, world-renowned cult expert and author of The Cult of Trump. A leading cult expert explains how the president uses mind control. Now, the former president, and also, by the way, now with a new foreword by George Conway. It's great to have you on again. You know, we've been kind of talking to and about Trump supporters who we interview at rallies sometimes and other places. And there's this intuitive feeling I have, having read about a number of different cult leaders, that there's some similar mechanisms that are happening here. But as a non-expert on cults, it's hard for me to kind of qualify them. Talk to us a little bit about what you see that would qualify at least some followers of the former presidents as sort of being in a cult type scenario.
Oh, thanks, David, for having me back. I love your show. So part of the thesis of the cult of Trump is, first of all, that Trump has the stereotypical profile of a cult leader, which is what Eric Fromm called malignant narcissism, something George Conway has been promoting in terms of his anti-psychopath pack and everything, to try to say, look, this is a dangerous psychopathic person. We don't want him anywhere near power. So that's part of the cult of Trump. But to answer your question, what I realized was that there are actual authoritarian cults in the cult of Trump. And we're talking about tens of millions of people in groups like the New Apostolic Reformation churches and megachurches. Mm-hmm. And the media has missed the mark by calling them Christian evangelicals, in my opinion, because I have friends who are Christian evangelicals who follow Jesus and the Bible. And what's different about these groups is they're self-proclaimed prophets or apostles who say, I speak to God, and God told me Trump won the 2020 election. And they use Phobia programming, my BITE model of authoritarian control, behavior, information, thought, and emotional control, to create a pseudo-identity that's dependent and obedient on them. And it's because the leaders are saying we have to do what God wants, which is elect Trump. They're following their prophet more than they're following Trump. Not to say that there aren't people who are infatuated by Donald Trump, too, because chapter 7 and 8 have many different cults with...
Wait, I don't know if I watch this. Wait, hold on. Just as a quick thing. I'm sorry. There's literally no point to doing this, but I'm just curious. How many things has Trump technically just completely faltered on? We were supposed to be day one, Ukraine-Russia war over. Decrease in price of eggs / inflation in general. The ultimatum with Gaza failed. We didn't, or I'm sorry, hold on. Did I miss something? Did all of the hostages come back? Did I miss that? I heard that this Trump tax plan included literally 0 of his campaign promises. Trump tax plan did not include, well, and then I'll look this up after. It apparently didn't include the no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, and some other thing that he promised. Oh, did it have to? Was he going to remove taxes on Social Security? Oh, it's unclear whether the measure creates enough room for Trump's other priorities, like ending taxes on tips, overtime pay, and Social Security. Oh. Is there any big... I know that there's a Trump tracker. I don't want to track every fucking random thing. I'm just curious. Are there any other big ones that have come up in debates and shit a lot? Okay. All right. We got these, I guess. It seems kind of retarded, but whatever. Okay.
In the cult of Trump. But the point is that when you're in a mindset where you're unable to consider the possibility you might be in error or that there may be information that you're missing, if you're so certain and you know, that's the danger point that I want to urge everybody to step back and go, whoa, because we're human. And it's critical that we have information and evidence to make good decisions.
One of the things I've noticed or thought about is that sometimes we, our correspondent Luke Beasley or someone from a right-wing network will interview a Trump supporter, and they will say, for example, with total confidence that Donald Trump is currently the president of the United States. Now, we've talked amongst ourselves sort of about, are those claims literally believed to be true by the people who say them? Or is it sort of like, for example, with Jim Jones? There were followers of Jim Jones who certainly repeated, they were on message, they were saying the things, but they weren't saying it because they necessarily believed it. They saw it as how you kind of prove your membership in the group, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely.
Is one or the other, the literal belief versus the I'm saying it to show I'm part of the team, is one or the other more common among cult followers?
So this is a graphic that I have on my freedomofmind.com website. It's in the cult of Trump. And I have a more detailed one for the cult of Trump, actually. It's black and white. But most people in any cult are what I call fringe members. They align, but they still have some sense of self, and they may be saying what they want to say in order to be in the in-group.
He's got this shit laminated, bro. He's ready to go.
Different than the core followers who would kill on command, die on command, do whatever they're told, think that they need to do a civil war, for example. And what I've learned as a mental health professional, frankly, is to treat each person with respect as an individual and actually have engaged, respectful, curious conversations where you ask questions that encourage people to think for themselves. And what I see in the media are people going to Trump rallies, putting a microphone, being self-identified as a media person, and the way they're asking questions is going to elicit a cultic framework. And
is that a defense mechanism to a degree, that they see this person from the media, they're coming in, I perceive them as maybe challenging me or my beliefs, and therefore I am going to recite the things I'm supposed to recite?
Not consciously. So part of what I want to convey to your listeners is that brainwashing is a dissociative disorder. It's literally in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association as a disruption of identity.
Is it actually? Brainwashing? I've never heard of this before. Oh, shit. Trauma coerced attachment. Identity disturbance due to prolonged and intense coercive persuasion. Individuals who have been subjected to intense coercive persuasion, e.g. brainwashing, thought reform, indoctrination, captive torture, long-term political imprisonment, recruitment by sects or cults, or by terror organizations, may present with prolonged changes in or conscious questions of their identity. Oh. Does it talk more about brainwashing? No, fuck you. No.
When I was recruited into the Moonies 50 years ago as a 19-year-old at Queens College,
the Moonies,
the old Steve Hassan got replaced by the Mooney Steve Hassan. It didn't get erased, but it got replaced. Like a computer can get hacked by malware and it takes over your operating system. The programming is still there of who I was before. And so what I want to convey is that if you attack the leader, the doctrine, or the policy head on, automatic cult defense system, alert, danger, danger, persecution. But if you ask a question with warmth about who the person was before they met the group, what they were interested in, their hobbies, their loved ones, etc., you're going to get more of the real identity. And so what I'm trying to convey to everybody who's listening is if you have a family member, a friend, a coworker who's got taken over by the MAGA influence, be warm, open up doors. If you block them or muted them, say, I've been thinking about you. How are you? I want you in my life. Can we do a redo? And then if they say, well, you were mean to me or you called me names, apologize and say, let's not talk politics. Let's just be together because we want to create an off-ramp for tens of millions of Americans. We need to depolarize this extreme situation, which is largely information psychological warfare that's being conducted on us.
There are some who, even if they don't disagree that there is an aspect of cult and brainwashing that's taken place here with at least some of Trump's followers, they're concerned that when you say this is a brainwashed individual, you're dismissing their agency as well as political motivations to a degree and saying they are merely brainwashed, if that makes sense. When, yes, that may be. So can you talk a little bit about that and addressing that?
1000%. Remember, I'm a mental health professional who was in a cult fanatically for 2.5 years, was deprogrammed. So I speak not only as someone who was there, who believed Moon was the Messiah and God was going to save us from World War III, but I've been doing this work for 50 years with people from a myriad of cults. What you don't want to do is...
This is why I'm happy whenever Hassan and other people attack DGG, because it just strengthens my cult hold over all of you.
Speak down ever to anybody, even if they are the most irrational, conspiracy-laden stuff. You want to be warm, curious? Tell me how you arrived at this. When was the first time you ever heard the name Trump? I'm curious. Oh, I saw it on The Apprentice. Oh, really? What was your first impression? Oh, I thought he was a schmuck. Oh, that's curious. Schmuck. So tell me how you came to start respecting him. I'm very interested in your journey. Help me step into your shoes. So never treat people as objects, put them down, or use the term brainwashing in a deleterious way. And what I want people to understand when I call the cult of Trump or I say people are brainwashed, it's because it happened to me and I know what it's like. And I agreed to my deprogramming in 1976 after a near-fatal van crash to prove to my family I wasn't in a cult and I wasn't brainwashed. That actually motivated me to prove it. And then I learned about Chinese communist brainwashing techniques and my mind started to open up because I saw something to compare my experience with.
The being nice tactic would work if the brainwashing wasn't done in such a way where even if you try to stay off politics, they will continually bring it up. MAGA makes politics your very personality. Sure, but I think, I mean, this is like an interpersonal strategy. Interpersonally, this is probably true. You're never going to like hardcore debate a friend out of something. You have to be a lot more gentler, sure.
Can you talk, speaking of comparing, can you tell us a couple of the tactics that Trump uses that are similar to those in religious cults, but maybe also differences?
Sure. So,
if there are any differences.
Well, so it's very interesting you asked me this because I'm reflecting a lot. The thing that woke me up, David, in my deprogramming after 5 days was the ex-members handed me a speech printed by the organization, the Moonies, of Moon speaking to congressmen and senators. They didn't give me a judgment about it. They just said, read this and tell us what you think, Steve. And when I read it, it was Moon talking to congressmen and senators saying how surprised he was that anyone could think that an American could be brainwashed by a Korean like him. And he knows no American is so foolish. He respects them. Now, I had met with Moon 100 times at least as a top leader, and he always dissed Americans as stupid, idiot, lowlifes. So what I'm trying to convey is the first critical thought I had in 2.5 years was he's a liar. And then when I was like, well, if he's a liar, that means he can't speak for God because God is a God of truth. That means he's not trustworthy. And the whole house of cards fell down. So what I'm trying to convey to you in terms of how to talk with cult members is remember their real self is in there. Most people are followers with good intent, good values, and really believe they're going to help save America. So in terms of your question about what techniques are used, the behavior control, information, thought, and emotional control techniques, projection of his own stuff on everyone else, misdirection, the pathological lying, saying he knows more than anybody else, trust me, and literally it fits the model so well. And people say, don't you criticize left-wing cults too? And I'm like, sure I do. China is like one of the biggest cults on the planet right now. It's a political system, but they operate as a dictatorship.
Can we go back to one of the ones you mentioned, which is information control? Because in a strict sense, anyone with a mobile phone or access to the internet has access in a literal sense to all the same information. Therefore, it must be that there is some other way that Trump is controlling access to information. Is it you can't believe what you're hearing and seeing from the fake news media that's the enemy of the people? Is it turning people against other media sources, or how does he do it?
Oh, absolutely. So let's remember fake news, which is loaded language, and don't believe anyone who's critical of us, certainly that piece. Just remember the dual identity. So the person who's programmed is self-monitoring. One other thing that I haven't mentioned yet, and it's the universal mind control technique, is phobia indoctrination. The indoctrination of irrational fears that terrible things are going to happen to you, whether you'll be possessed by demons or the communists will take over and flay your skin off or something, other types of irrational fears, so that in the mind of a cult member, they can't imagine ever leaving or questioning the group and being okay about it. Only negative things happen to them.
There's one of the reasons why, I don't know if this ties in directly, but this is one of the reasons why I think it's simultaneously it needs to happen, but it's also kind of scary if somebody finally stands up to Trump, because then you shatter that illusion of everybody's going to agree with him all the time, or they have to bend their will to him because Trump is so powerful. And as soon as that, you can see that, oh wait, people can stand up to Trump and it's not the end of the world, and Trump doesn't have anywhere near as much power as he says he has. What does Trump do at that point, you know? I'm curious. So I guess the words of the American president mean nothing. So do we just not care that like Hamas passed their deadline and we don't have all the hostages back? That just didn't matter? Trump just said that and it didn't matter. What did he say? Didn't he say Saturday noon? And then that didn't matter. Oh, and there was another one too. Fuck this. Doge transparency by Valentine's Day. We never got this, did we? Is this happening, or is it still over the weekend now, or what was the website that it was going to be? Is it doge.gov, or was it? No, I thought it was a different one. Doge.gov/savings. Oh, receipts coming over the weekend. Oh, they changed it. If this is anything like the Elon Musk auto drive, we're going to be waiting for an undefined amount of time.
So I've worked with so many people in cults who just refused to look at any negative information because they thought it was going to hurt their soul or it was going to harm their spirits. So the self-monitoring happens. One other thing I want to say is that a lot of people talk about how that people are lonely and they have a need for community, and that's how they get into QAnon. Absolutely true. We're social beings. We want community for sure. But what you learn with mind control cults is that your comrades, your friends, aren't your friends if you verbalize a question or a doubt. The minute you do that, you're the enemy, and they turn on you like rabid wolves. And that we see this historically. True believers then turned on by their peers because they're starting to wake up and ask questions. So when you're in one of these groups, you know by the way other people are being treated that if you start allowing yourself to verbalize doubts, same thing in Russia or China, you start criticizing the regime, you're worried someone's going to turn you in.
When it comes to the fear tools Trump uses, the obvious ones seem the violent immigrants from Central and South America, the communists and Marxists, the teachers that will do this, that, or the other thing to your kids. What are some of the other fear tactics he uses?
So it's very important. It goes back to the Phobia programming to have an enemy. And I'd like to quote a 1954 book by Eric Hoffer called The True Believer. One of the first books I read 48 years ago when I got out. He said,
like when you talked to that kid at that university, oh my God, that was so sad. That was such a crazy through line, that story. The University of Texas at Austin, where that kid came up to me. We had a really good conversation on Israel-Palestine stuff. And then I was talking to somebody else, or 2 kids later, he comes back and he's like, don't talk to Destiny. That guy's evil. And you could tell it's because the other people had told him. They'd scolded him for talking to me. And then after we were done with the interviews, I saw he was just sitting like completely alone in the center of that crowd because they'd shunned him for talking to me. Oh my God, that was so sad. Holy shit.
Strength of a mass movement, he didn't use the word cults, he called them mass movements. The strength of a mass movement can be measured by its vividness and tangibility of its devils. Right. So if you want cohesion, make a devil. Make it being unsafe out there. Right. Because then you'll hunker down and you'll follow the apex, leader who's going to tell you how to stay safe. And this goes back to our early genetic programming of survival.
And so that's the way that Trump is doing it, which is I'll make it so that the violent immigrants don't get you. He will protect you from all of those things.
That's the claim. But of course, he is the danger. And people have to understand he is not doing God's will. This is a lie. He's a tool of political Christian nationalists, New Apostolic Reformation, neo-Nazis. Putin was at the top of Chapter 7 of Puppet Masters, clearly. And so do we want human rights? Do we want women's rights, gay rights, indigenous rights? Do we want the right to read what we want to read, or do we want book banning? Do we want to be able to talk freely about our opinions, or do we need to live in an environment where we're worried someone's going to turn us in and we're going to be cast out? Or
the contrast, very, very stark for sure. We've been speaking with Dr. Stephen Hassan. The book now with a foreword by George Conway is The Cult of Trump. A leading cult expert explains how the president uses mind control. Always great having you on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, David. Continued success.
Thanks.